Progressive Democrats of America Town Hall for, May 24th, 2026. And I'm in a unique location. I will in time show you the view from here as best I can. But for now, I just want to make sure the connection is stable and I can introduce the show from up here on top of the world in Topanga Canyon. It's called Topanga Canyon. The canyon's down there. This is the hills and mountains that define the canyon, as it were. And I can see the Pacific Ocean and the I suppose that's down around Santa Monica, and then there's downtown LA over here. It's a beautiful view. I'll try to share this in the course of the 90 minutes that we're here. But we have an incredible town hall. We have, of course, focusing on progressive candidates, and we're going to feature two brilliant progressive candidates. And first, in about 13 minutes from now, we're going to introduce Dr. Hamawy from New Jersey 12th, who is, my understanding is the Analia Mejia Zoran Momdani progressive momentum in greater New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, megalopolis area are unified behind the Good Doctors campaign. And we're going to hear all about it with a real chance to pick up another progressive champion. Look, my interpretation of the primary results are in spite of an unbelievable amount of arrayed against progressives. I mean, staggering, just mind-bending amounts of money coming from, dark money sources. Obviously, we know the Israel lobby, but now they're joined in large part, almost in a de facto coalition with crypto bro money and now AI, anti-regulation for AI money. And these are, backed by some of the wealthiest people in America. And their intent is to suffocate the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Of course, some of it because of our ethical and moral position for the rights of the Palestinian people and the horrors of what's transpired in Gaza, but also because we recognize there's just a severe economic imbalance in our society that's leading to effectively oligarchic rule, which they're the oligarchs, and we are the people who want to preserve democracy, strengthen democracy, live in a democratic society, and one in which working people can live very, very dignified lives and prosperous lives across the broad population of the United States as a model, then hopefully for the rest of the world to move outside of the structures of neoliberalism that have pretty much generated an economic system where all wealth goes to the investor class. So we got to break out of that. It's a heavy lift, but we are making momentum, folks. The results in Pennsylvania were stunningly positive. The victory by candidate Raab in Philadelphia introduces into Congress somebody who really is just going to be, again, an incredibly articulate champion of the people, just a full-throated expression of the kind of politics the Progressive Democrats of America has always stood for. And also something that many people missed, Summer Lee was not challenged in her primary, and that she has been a target not only of the Israel lobby, but of the non-progressive forces inside the party, facing very serious primary challenges. Well, this time, of course, we were very active in Summer Lee's campaign last time around, and we were very happy not to have to be this time and that's a big victory, folks. That's a real shift. And coming out of Pennsylvania, going into the primaries on June 2nd, which the biggest states are, of course, New Jersey and California, a real opportunity to pick up and build upon the momentum. Well, the second candidate we're going to have is another place where we can build momentum on June 2nd, and that's out in Montana. Now, Montana has elected Democratic senators recently. It has 2 congressional districts, and one of them, the western part of the state, is decidedly more Democratic and more progressive than the eastern side of the state. So there's a congressional district there, and there's a fantastic candidate, Sam Forstag, who we're going to hear from. To give you an idea how much promise there is for Sam's campaign out there to not only win the primary, but then to win the general and have another great progressive. And you're going to be amazed at this guy's politics. And he has an incredible backstory because he was a fire jumper until he got doged out of his job when they fired a whole bunch of federal workers. And so he stepped up and, you do what you got to do. You don't take that kind of blow and take it lying down. You step up, you get involved in the game, and boy, has he ever. And just in a few days, by the way, the great union leader Sarah Nelson and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, piggybacking off of a previous appearance by Bernie Sanders, are going out to Missoula to support Sam. And we're going to introduce you to Sam again at the top of the second hour of the town hall. But in a few minutes, we'll be joined again by Dr. Hamawy in New Jersey's 12th. Now, as we always do at the top of the hour, we're going to hear Mike Fox with our PDA to-dos for this week, and then from Donna Smith, the chair of PDA's advisory board. Now, I am here with Dorothy Reich, and there's an event where I am up here in Topanga celebrating the late, great Howie Klein, who ran Blue America. That was the name of his PAC, and real ally of PDA through the years. And, for Dr. Hamawy and other people who don't know about PDA, we were the we were the big fish in the very small pond of left progressive electoral politics before 2016. And we were the folks that generated the transformation in 2016 because we were the group that bent Bernie Sanders' arm and cajoled him and set up events from across the country. And we were the sole national organization to lead the Run Bernie Run campaign for about almost 2 whole years until the nurses joined us and momentum really developed. I don't know, so that's who we are. And we're so thrilled to see the progressive movement gaining strength. And we're going to continue that on June 2nd, Montana, New Jersey, California, and onwards. Now, just quickly, 2 things very quick. I feel I would feel totally remiss if I didn't mention at the top of this town hall. One, yes, Danny Goldberg will be joining us to honor Howie Klein in about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. A very famous rock and roll producer who was the manager from Nirvana and stuff, right? Okay, that's Danny. No, the two things I'm going to want to mention at the top are be very aware of what's going on around Cuba. My sense is that Marco Rubio is really pressing the president to try to essentially topple in some way the government, or maybe in fully the government of Cuba, with military force immediately after there's some kind of significant decline in the attention of the military on Iran. And that could happen at any day, and they're arraying their forces, so be vigilant about that. And again, everybody here on this call should think about ways that they're comfortable expressing in the public domain in the United States solidarity with the Cuban people, because, Cuba, whatever one makes of it historically, at this point is a society that generates a lot of doctors, a lot of educated people, and is really not anything but a benign force, I think, in the Western Hemisphere these days. So we gotta try to present barriers to that. The other thing is this whole idea of the DNC autopsy report that's come out. I think we should be very wary about joining in solidarity with groups that are calling for the removal of DNC Chair Ken Martin. I think people need to know the array of the politics inside the DNC, because most of the people, I think, if you look at who are calling for his resignation, now are disproportionately, and the force is coming from much more conservative forces within the Democratic Party. And certainly Ken has certainly made a bunch of mistakes, but he has created more of an opening for progressives in the party than I've seen in recent years. And obviously the autopsy was a disaster, in part because it just didn't get at what was really needed to be said in an autopsy, which the moderates wouldn't have liked even more. But anyway, I like Norman Solomon, our partner at Roots Action's article in The Guardian, and I'll put that in the chat sometime later in the town hall. And with that, Mike Fox, what are our PDA to-dos for this week? And then Donna Smith, and y'all have 7 minutes because we got to get to Dr. Hamawy on time at 1:15. Mike Fox, take it away.
The machine is not being my friend. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. First and foremost, everyone, what's always our to-do number one on this call every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, all together now, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. We know tough times, the news is crazy, it can be overwhelming at times. Well, here, everybody knows what's going on, and most importantly, are doing something about it. Bottom line, so you are surrounded with colleagues here who are all active, who know that are we up against arguably the most challenging political time in our lives? Yes, we are. No question. Likewise, no question. We can turn this ship around. No question. We just have to put in the work required. You take a look at the blue wave we've got going since November of 2024, it's only good. So we just got to wade through all of the insanity, and more of it will come. We know that, but we wade through it. We stick our jaw out and we move forward to our next win. And that's going to be the good doctor that you're going to be hearing from in just a couple of minutes. So I'll keep this tight. All right. So number one, revel, feel better, feel energized. Number two, take notes, because we got a lot we got to get done, right? And if it ain't written down, it ain't real. So take notes, make sure you see where you can plug in. So, from a time and treasure standpoint, the primary time thing that we're focusing on is hit the phones, hit the phones, hit the phones, hit the phones. If you're in the good doctor's district, hit the doors, hit the doors, hit the doors, hit the doors. We got to, as a team nationwide, pile in on getting those voter contacts, all right? So we've got a goal of, I know we've got a boatload of phone bankers here with us today already. Type in the chat that you're a phone banker and tell folks, join us. Help me recruit 10 new people on this call. I know we'll get a lot more than that signing up. Those are all folks who are already on our radar. We're looking for 10 new folks, okay? Let's go. Let's make it happen. Secondly, treasure. Those are the two sides of the seesaw. Or I know that's a lousy analogy. In any event, time and treasure, right? We got a lot of folks on this call who do both. They're double doing. They not only hit the phones with us, they likewise toss a few pennies in the tip jar. If you can make that happen, please do. Our primary goal on this call is we'll be dropping a link in the chat for the good doctor, a split. It's PDA and the good doctor. You are also able to make that 100% for him if you want. Just bottom line, click that link, give how your heart suggests you should give, and make it happen. If you can do a large donation today, that's beautiful. But if not, that's fine. It's totally fine. What we're looking for is solidarity, right? Everybody on this call carrying a little bit of the weight, either hitting the phones, tossing a couple dollars in the tip jar. And if you can't do a 3-figure today, that's fine. If you can only do $2, equal love. Equal love. Let me underline that, all right? But our primary goal from a fundraising standpoint on this call is 10 new sustainers. $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can make it, simply because it makes it substantially more effective for us to know that we've got that money churning, right? We can budget better that way. That's the whole reason why we asked for it. So help us out in that regard. I'll be back at the top of the hour to identify where we're at on our goals. And back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much. And Donna Smith, your thoughts for the week. And I'm going to place your Common Dreams article from May 21st in the chat for everybody right there. That's when GOP, there it is. When GOP cowardice governs, everyone suffers. And that's by Donna Smith, and it's in the chat. Donna, your thoughts for this week. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Alan. I'm going to take a tiny bit of time just to take a victory lap for those of us here in Colorado and our Colorado PDA team. I was sitting and working on my computer this week, and all of a sudden I heard AOC's voice say, Diana DeGette supports Medicare for all. Thank you for electing her. And I almost flew out of my chair. I was like, oh my God, someone's actually campaigning on Medicare for all, big and bold and in the commercials. I was blown away by that. We in Colorado moved that needle. We had a primary candidate, Neil Wallia, who ran against Diana DeGette in a primary a few years ago. And Neil's challenge and Neil's progressive ideas, including Medicare for all, is what made Diana pull to the left. So anytime you're out there and you're working on a primary campaign, or you're throwing it down on something and you're not sure what impact you're making, oh my God, it pays off. It does pay off. Neil Wallia is now running to be a state legislator here in Colorado. And yesterday I was out canvassing a little bit with his team, which was wonderful to be able to do that. And hopefully Neil will be elected. Also, I put my positively progressive background behind me because I actually finally re-recorded a positively progressive episode that Alan will have shortly with a composer who wrote an anti-war lyric. And I'm reading in the text in our chat about Medea Benjamin. Let's all think some good thoughts for what may be going on with Medea. And I will talk to you soon. I'm done at 2:15 or 2:14. There you go, Alan. You're on.
You're on mute, Alan. You're muted, Alan. Alan going once. Alan going twice.
Well, that's going to be fun. We can go right to our
Sorry,
guest.
everybody. Yeah, thank you, Don and Mike. I could not unmute, and it's just because of this new space I'm in. And I apologize, but now I'm unmuted. Look, Dr. Adam Hamawy is running in New Jersey's 12th. He is a doctor, a veteran, and he has an amazing backstory in terms of the work he did as a doctor in the U.S. military. And here to tell us about himself, why he is stepping up and running, and also what motivates him to have such an absolutely brilliant progressive set of policy proposals that inform his campaign and have motivated the people in the Northeast to really mobilize behind this campaign. My understanding, it's got an incredible canvassing operation and incredible enthusiasm among the people who supported Zohran Mamdani, who supported Ana Lilia Mejia, obviously two candidates we supported here at PDA. And so as progressive victories are sweeping the country, we are very hopeful to get great news out of New Jersey 12th, which is, of course, the seat that Bonnie Watson Coleman has retired from. Well, here to tell us about himself, his campaign, and his thoughts on America and the people of New Jersey's 12th. Welcome, Dr. Adam Hamawy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here with you all. And wow, it's great to see so many people on a Sunday afternoon, and just like interested and excited about changing America and getting some progressives into Congress. So my name is Adam Hamawy. I'm a father of four, doctor, veteran. My parents immigrated to New Jersey when I was 7 months old, looking for a better life. And I grew up here in the district, went to public schools, and then I joined the military to pay for college. So I joined the New Jersey National Guard and eventually got an ROTC scholarship. And after finishing medical school, I served as a combat trauma surgeon in Iraq in 2004 and 5 and did 8 years of active duty. While I was a resident, I was a first responder in 9/11. I was actually in New York City at New York Presbyterian that day, and then I went down to ground zero and was working with first responders and actually climbed onto the rubble and walked home all covered in ash that night. And I will never forget that day. After finishing my service in the Army, I came back to New Jersey where I grew up, and I'm currently serving here in the community. I have my own independent practice. I cover emergency rooms, and I also volunteer in war and disaster zones all over the world, really for the last 30 years. Most recently, I've been to Gaza twice over the last 2 years, and I've witnessed what we are doing over there, and I've witnessed that genocide firsthand. Every day in New Jersey, I see my patients getting crushed by the health insurance industry. I'm struggling year after year to provide care, and it's getting more difficult. Patients obviously can't afford their premiums anymore. If they have insurance, they can't get their medications, and they have to choose between their rent and their medical bills. And in the richest country in the history of the world, I can't understand why this is the case. At the same time, I've personally seen where we actually are spending our money. I've been to Iraq. The biggest joke over there was, did we find the WMDs today? I have been all over the world. I've been to Gaza, where we are funding with our tax dollars bombs for atrocities and really committing a genocide. And we're told that we don't have enough money for Medicare for all, but there's always enough money for bombs, endless wars, and ICE. And so I see that our priorities are wrong, in this country. I have, as a surgeon, I don't do Band-Aids. I go and I fix the problem. I've been working with Bonnie Watson Coleman for the last 2 years. She's been a great ally. I was her guest at the State of the Union last year in 2025. And when she announced her retirement, I was upset. And then I looked at the race and I saw people who were critical of her and critical of her stances jumping in the race. And I couldn't let a progressive not only step down, but get replaced by someone who did not stand what she stood for. So I jumped in late in a very crowded race in January. And right from the start, I was able to outraise my opponents. And, the excitement on the ground was palpable because I don't have a history in politics. Asked me 6 months ago if this is what I would be doing, I would have laughed at you. But the excitement grew. My biggest problem in the beginning is I didn't know what to do with all the volunteers. Now we have a very organized campaign. We have canvassing every day. We have phone banking from New Jersey to California. We've already made over the last month, about month and a half, over 100,000 phone calls. And since jumping in the race, I've been able to gather such a wide range of endorsements from both members of Congress, local elected officials, as well as organizations that really encompass the whole really Democratic Party. So I have progressive groups, I have pro-Palestinian groups, I have climate change groups, I have veterans groups, I have science groups. And right from the start, I was able to get Senator Tammy Duckworth to endorse me. I got, Senator Bernie Sanders just a couple of weeks ago, Ro Khanna yesterday, or actually the day before. AOC endorsed our campaign. And honestly, it's just been humbling by the amount of support that I have seen really from the community on the ground to the members of Congress who are excited to have someone that is not your usual politician, someone who likes to fix problems, come join. So I'm running for Congress to basically fund healthcare, not bombs, to abolish ICE, which has been terrorizing our communities for the last 20 years, and only recently has it come onto the radar because they've transgressed so much, and to unrig this economy so that it finally works for working people and not just the billionaires.
Well, I tell you, well, you are such the perfect PDA candidate. Healthcare, not warfare is a PDA slogan that we popularized back even before we drafted Bernie to run for president. Oddly enough, Hakeem Jeffries seems to have embraced the slogan. We've sort of nudged their office and said, hey, that's our slogan. We got all the little stickers for it and everything. And of course, we're a little skeptical about whether he really sees that it reads that slogan the same way that we intended it. We've always been for single payer universal health care. You just sound like it would be the greatest advocate to jump in and to advocate that to the Democratic caucus and to all members of Congress and to the people out in the country. Tell us a little bit about the district. So did it get redrawn recently? Jersey got redrawn, right?
Yeah, it got redrawn a few years ago. It's still pretty diverse in it's got like Trenton, which is like low socioeconomic like situation, to like right next door you have Princeton, which is the complete opposite. It's got it's one of the most diverse districts in the country. 30% are born outside of this country, and really we have all the tapestry of America right here in Central Jersey. So it is very progressive. It is plus 13. Bonnie Watson Coleman has been here for 12 years. Whoever gets this primary, which is less than 2 weeks, it's 10 days away. It is going to be June 2nd. Whoever gets this primary will, hopefully sail through the election in the general in November.
And I was going to see if Donna had a question for you, but I think Donna, I know that she has a little busy schedule, may have to step away. But if maybe Tyler Rivera, who is in New Jersey native, though he's slumming in Kansas City this weekend and living in Chicago, if you want to maybe have a question for Dr. Hamawy, that'd be great, Tyler. But let's have a stack for questions for the good doctor. And just how much of a transformation do you think might be taking place in New Jersey with the disappearance of the county line that you really held? Yeah, I joked and said, when they eliminated it, happened very quickly. It seemed like it would never go away. That democracy has come to New Jersey, and here we are having Ana Lilia Mejia win a progressive campaign. You with a great shot at winning this race, and everybody knock on wood and let's mobilize for the good doctor. Let's do what Mike Fox suggests. Let's raise some money for him. By the way, let's staff members put the split into the chat where we can raise money. We're gonna get national membership to join the phone calls, the phone banks that are available to support Dr. Hamawy's campaign. And so donate, and money will go to the campaign, or will go to our efforts to support the campaign, and also sign up to volunteer, because this is just going to be a huge gain for us. I mean, Bonnie Watson Coleman's fantastic. So you're right. It's holding a progressive seat, and that's essential. But, it'll be a great progressive victory in your voice in Congress around healthcare and all matters, foreign policy, of course, too, from clearly what you said. And before I throw it to Angela with a question, again, Tyler, put your hand up if you want to speak, or anybody else from the staff have a question for Dr. Hamawy. I also just want to honor what you did in going to Gaza. And if you want to say anything more about what you witnessed there, because I have to just honor you fully, sir, because I wish I had the courage to do what you do. I don't have the professional skills that you have, but that's bravery beyond the call, man. So thank you very much.
It was an honor to actually do it. Having the skills puts me in a position where very few people on this planet are able to go to Gaza. Most Israelis can't even get in there, and it's just a few humanitarian aid workers. And so the fact that I could go in there and I could actually do something, I felt that it was something that I had to do with the blessings that I have, and it changed me because I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been in Central America, Africa, all over the Middle East, and I have seen the horrors of war. But what I witnessed there was beyond that. It was truly a level of destruction and killing I had not witnessed before. And it changed me because I couldn't just go back to my practice and start working. I had to speak up as a witness and advocate, which led me to start going to Congress and trying to knock on doors there and get people to listen. This is what we're doing with our tax dollars. Unfortunately, most of the doors were closed. They wouldn't even listen to me. I did not meet with one Republican member of Congress because they wouldn't let me even talk to their staff. And even most Democrats, they would listen to what I had to say, but weren't willing to stand up or do anything. But a few people were. And this is what we need more of, is people who are standing for values and ethics and are willing to speak up in order to do what's right for their communities, and really we need humanity in Congress, which we seem to be lacking these days.
No, that's beautifully stated. And again, ever more so, your voice in Congress would be such a spectacular addition, because obviously that's firsthand testimony of experience there that I think the members of Congress need to hear. And I think the line of the course of action in terms of the Palestinian rights and opposition to the Israeli state in all of its violence and mass killing is pretty clear. And obviously, there are some exceptional members of Congress that I know you'd be able to work with, but they are small in numbers. The 435 person body in the Senate, the Democratic caucus in the Senate is not even as progressive as the House caucus. So thank you so much for that. Let's go to folks who have their hands up. I'll go to Mike Fox first because that could be relevant to the ongoing. Mike, can you unmute, please, and your question for Dr. Hamawy? Mr. Fox, and there you go.
Yes, sir. My apologies. And my apologies, gang. There's a right link in the chat right now as we speak. Hit it, hit it, hit it. My question for the good doctor. Obviously, your experiences as an adult are just phenomenal. Is there something you can tell me about experiences in your childhood that helped fuel your passion for progressive issues, or was that something that you came to as an adult?
It's funny. Everyone tells me that I'm a progressive. I didn't know I was a progressive until I started running. It's just what I believe. I mean, I grew up in some garden apartments in Old Bridge, and all my friends were immigrants as well, and we grew up in public schools, and I got a great education. I mean, I am who I am today because of the public education that I had. My kids also go to public schools, and I see what they're getting is not as good, and it's not because the teachers are bad. It's because we're not funding our education the way we should, and we seem to be struggling every day to try to keep up with the rest of the world, whether it's our infrastructure, which is falling apart. And again, I see the roads that I grew up in, they haven't changed much. The bridges that were around, 30, 40 years ago are falling apart, and we're not investing in our communities. But I see that we have like billions of dollars to spend on another war. So it's kind of growing up here and seeing it fall apart, over the last 50 years, and being sad that this is not the America that I grew up in.
Thank you, sir. Alan, you're muted again. Alan, you're muted again.
If we can look for also Danny Goldberg in the chat and make him a co-host. I don't see him listed, so maybe Danny could raise his hand, and then Mike can make him a co-host for the next segment. Angela Vullo, you are up. Please unmute your question for Dr. Adam Hamawy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from the Coalition for the National Infrastructure Bank, Adam, totally in support of your campaign. I wanted to give you a firsthand report on this showdown, whether it's in the Republican Party or the DNC, is that we were able to pull off a congressional briefing and on a bill in Congress that Bonnie Watson Coleman supports for the National Infrastructure Bank. This happened this Wednesday. And despite the fact that Speaker Johnson shut down the Congress and hoped that, we would not get any members of Congress there, 4 members showed up, 11 elected officials from around the country. We had 50 people, half of them were congressional staffers, making the argument that we've got to have a national infrastructure bank and an economy that supports the people. So I absolutely want to let you know you're doing the right thing. Keep fighting, because this is a showdown, whether we can get a Franklin Roosevelt policy right now or, end up with a financial oligarchy. So I was curious what you have to say about that.
Yes, I mean, this is, the problem with the oligarchy is that they're running most of our elected officials now because of, obviously the conflicts of interest that everyone has. And the projects that we should be funding seem to be neglected year after year by both parties. And both of them say they want to have infrastructure, both they say they want to have jobs, but whenever the opposing party is in power, the ones, they keep fighting each other. So we need to come together. We need that bank together where we are actually spending on restoring America. I mean, we're restoring our roads. We don't have a high-speed rail system. You go anywhere in the world now, it doesn't matter. You see these high-speed rails that are going back and forth in small countries. To get to California now, the only thing I could do is take a plane, because there's nothing, we should be able to get there quickly and get on a nice train and get across the country, get to DC, get down to Florida. If it's not going to be in America, where else, why are we so behind on this?
Alan, you're muted.
Danny Goldberg is now named Danny Goldberg. If you could make him a co-host, and then, sorry, I keep muting because it's a little loud here. And then Tyler Rivera, please unmute, Tyler, with your question for Dr. Hamawy.
Yes. Hello. As Adam had said earlier, my name is Tyler, and actually I'm on the steering committee for YPDA, and I am born and raised in New Jersey. Mike, speaking on kind of that previous question that was just kind of brought up to you regarding the National Infrastructure Bank, but something that I noticed on your website, and being from Jersey and kind of being from the side that's closer to New York City versus Philly, I grew up in Essex County. Kind of my question to you is regarding your website. You say that you're like one of the lifebloods, in my opinion, and I think you probably will share this too, is New Jersey Transit. A lot of time we have a lot of commuters that come in that work in either side, either Philadelphia for the most part, or New York if you're on the east side. And that also not only is just like part of the charm is that you have this ability to go into these dense, really like dense and bustling areas, and then go to the serenity of the Garden State, and go back to your hometown and see all these parks and hear the birds and see all these beautiful trees and the wonderful wildlife that is there. And I saw, based upon it, the reason why I'm also teeing this up too, is like part of your, if you get through this primary and you go into the general, like, would you support certain initiatives and advocating for not only like this infrastructure bank, but perhaps projects that could restore former lines in New Jersey Transit that are still throughout the state that, could be either, explored or, evaluated to see whether or not we can restore some of these lines that used to, basically take you from point A to point B throughout the state, regardless of where you're from.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
what I've been doing over the last 2 weeks, on weekday mornings, I didn't go this morning, is I've been going to the train station and canvassing early on. trying to meet locals as they're going off to work in New York or whatever. And I've gotten to see all the different New Jersey Transit stops that we have in the district. And while some of them are nice and thriving, others are like dilapidated. And I think really, it's almost, it's almost scary to stand there early on in the morning. I can imagine in the winter when it's dark. And it is a shame. I mean, these are, these are easy ways to transport within New Jersey as well as to get into New York City. This is a lot of people use this as their way to go into the city, to enjoy something for like the evening and come back. And now, we have delays, we have stations that are falling apart. And yeah, I would be for federal funding. These are the things that we should be funding. It should be the trains, it should be the roads, it should be, we don't have a lot of good bus systems here in New Jersey if you want to get from one place to the other, which is, a problem for people who don't have transportation. So these are projects that, our government should be doing, and it should be funded from the federal level down to the states because they can't do everything. And, we're always told that we can't afford it, but we know that we can because we seem to have money for other projects that seem, where the billionaires and the corporations are profiting, which kind of brings us around to the oligarchies, that the projects that they want funded. AI just popped on the scene like 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's exploding, and they want to put all this money and billions of dollars into putting in data centers everywhere, when we should really be looking at the infrastructure that we need to build first.
Unmute, Alan.
Sorry. Again, Jane, yeah, your question for Dr. Hamawy. Jane, Bruin?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Supreme Court reform.
No.
Did I hear right? Supreme
we-
Court? Yes. So we should, obviously the Supreme Court has not been doing its job over the last few years. It's very partisan. We should expand it. There's no reason why we shouldn't. It's been like that in the past. It's been more and less. So that's something that we could do right away. We should set term limits, and we should really look into regularizing the process so that you don't have a partisan Supreme Court like the way we have, whether it's alternating selections, or if we have the term limits, we could time it in a way that, it comes out so that, you have an even court and that one party doesn't have an advantage over the other.
Thank you so much. And up next is Martin. And then we have Mickey, and then we'll close the stack for Dr. Hamawy. And I'll have a final question too. But Martin, you're up. Please unmute. I think you're unmuted. Take it away.
You hear me? I'm new at this.
I can hear you now. That's the first time.
So that helps.
Your question for Dr. Hamawy?
We'll keep it simple. I am an adult on the autism spectrum, and I would like to have some more opportunities to, to make my life better in a way. Like, it's hard to get a job because I'm on SSI. I mean, I had a job at a candy store. It closed recently, unfortunately, due to the economy. But I'm wondering if there would be more, you would be able to help have more employment opportunities for people with mental and physical disabilities and stuff like that. I mean, I have other questions, but I'll have to save it for another time.
Well, we should have, federal funding for, really for opportunities for everyone who needs to work, whether it's, people with disabilities, which there should be no discrimination. If you could perform a job, there shouldn't be any discrimination at all, and there should be opportunities there. But also for returning citizens coming, back into society, we should be able to allow them to work. We have so many different, areas where not only just having those opportunities, but providing federal funding to the states to be able to have programs, so that there's a transition from education into jobs that you'd be able to do.
Thank you so much. And Mickey, please unmute, Mickey. And your question for Dr. Hamawy. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm so impressed with the fact that you are, really publicizing and working to get a really new infrastructure bank, because There is nothing here. I'm in Rockland County, New York, and the roads, side roads, main roads, highways, they're falling apart. It used to be governor here in New York or mayor in New York City. You had to plow the roads and you had to fill the potholes. Well, I can only tell you that filling the potholes is not happening. And have you seen how many sinkholes buses and trucks are falling into? So, the high speed rail, you're right. It's unbelievable we don't have any way. My three young grandchildren live in Los Angeles. They're 6, 8, and 11. I haven't seen them in 4 years. I've been quite sick. I can't get there by train. Doesn't exist.
Oh, thank you. So your thoughts on Mickey's comments? Sorry for the music. Okay.
Yes, I mean, it's not just the buses falling in sinkholes now. Like there's airplanes in LaGuardia this week, so
Right.
it's a shame. And this is relegated often to the local, like to a city or to a state to fix these roads, but often they don't have the actual funding to be able to, provide the proper infrastructure restoration, as well as all the other things they have to take care of, such as healthcare and education, which is why the federal government should be providing some of those funds so that they could do all these projects. So it's important that we don't just say this is a state issue or a local issue, but we should be able to put the money down so that these projects can actually get off the ground, and we're not dealing with a lot of bureaucracy and just putting it off.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And again, by the way, before splitting, let us know your website, and obviously people can get in contact with the campaign through volunteering at PDA through the links that Mike Fox has put in the chat. Again, encouraging people to donate through the split donation link rather that would have been in the chat as well, and do also give out your website. But I wanted to just maybe comment and then ask you this final question. It just seems like you're bringing incredible energy to this campaign. And obviously with what you went through in Gaza and also the general crisis we have in America, I do believe we're in a kind of, there's something of a moral torpor or torpitude in the United States right now, and a decline in faith in our political institutions and our social institutions. I mean, the tax on the universities just one example of, you could point to many, and all of there's just a cynicism and abject corruption of the Trump administration, and the fact that this unbelievable level of like suppressing, demanding that TV shows get fired and all this stuff is unlike anything we've seen before. But what strikes me is that you've responded to that situation, also the circumstances of what you saw in Gaza, by jumping into the political game. And it's certainly been my experience. And I had a politically relevant job previously, and I sort of stumbled into this position at PDA. But it has informed my life and made me full of energy, because there's so much to do. And you can feel the American people want something much better. And I just wonder if you sense that, and also if your experience of jumping into this campaign, if you've found it, the opposite of enervating, energizing, and to encourage other people to join with you and join with us to really remake the society. And I think we can do that. I think there's the energy to do it, but it's despairing when people just accept this decline. Yeah.
We can't accept it. I mean, once you've accepted it, you've accepted defeat. We have to participate. That's the only way democracy works. I jumped in the beginning, and everyone was like, "You're an outsider. You don't know politics. Why are you doing this? Or you can't do this." And my response is, look at all the people with experience in politics, and where has that gotten us?
Yeah.
They've been in there 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, and that's clearly not working. We need people that have been working, on the ground, doctors, nurses, everybody, like, what makes up America. This is really what Congress should be, because we know the problems that people face. And, our loyalty is to our communities, and not to not to really the party establishment, which unfortunately seems to kind of get into a rut and can't get off of it. And we need to get beyond that. So we need more people to jump in and participate. Otherwise, nothing's going to change.
Before you go, and maybe it's be good for you to hear this if it resonates with you. I've been thinking a lot about the structure of American democracy and the difficulties with the Democratic Party, but the progress now that progressives are making within the party, and the fact that clearly, the Sanders created a very clear template. I mean, the American left, what it meant was so amorphous. People didn't even know it existed at all, really, before Bernie provided this very clear template, especially on domestic policy. And you can see then the progressive movement growing since that point. But also, people really do have this sense that the system is broken. And the one thing that the American system has that you don't have, where you have multi-party systems in other countries, are primaries. Right? We do actually have this extra layer of democracy because the two major parties have been forced by the public to have these open primaries everywhere. I mean, I think the Republicans actually still have some non-open primaries in a couple states, but the Democrats have them in every state. And this is the great opportunity, is to challenge the establishment inside primaries. And I think we're starting to make a breakthrough right now in the season. And we're going to make a breakthrough again in harmony with Bonnie Watson Coleman, but again, electing a true progressive in New Jersey 12th. And with all of that, your final thoughts. And thank you so much for stepping up to run and all that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Yes, the abolition of the county line has opened it up. I mean, my race started with 17 people. People said that's too much, but that's democracy. And now people have a choice. So I hope this is a sign for the future and this continues to happen and we get more outsiders to participate.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And again, your website?
It's HamawyForNJ.com. I just put it in there a little while ago. I'll put it in again. It's HamawyForNJ.com.
Well, again, thank you for all that you're doing. Godspeed, because I can think of no better word to use at this moment. And may you win this primary. May everybody on this call contribute and both, however, financially or by volunteering and doing what they can, and letting everybody know in New Jersey 12th that this is a really, really promising candidate. And to see New Jersey again, quickly get two real progressives into the Congress will be spectacular, folks. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing, Adam. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, if you want to volunteer, just go on the website. Also, we have phone banking wherever you are. We got people, like I said, from New Jersey to California. So would appreciate if you have a few minutes or an hour or two this week, then just sign up on one of our banks and help out.
Thank you so much. And by the way, I've heard that you have a great field team going, and that, again, it's some of the spirit of the Mamdani campaign, that there's incredible enthusiasm around it. I know a very good friend of mine contacted me. You got to highlight this Hamawy campaign. It's the continuation of the momentum. So thank you for all, and really check this out. And if you're anywhere near Jersey, or if you're especially in Jersey or in the district, of course, not only vote, but go out and organize with the campaign, and we're going to build momentum and build a better America. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamawy.
Thank you. Take care.
And well, now two things. I'm going to have to connect my computer to an extension cord, which Dorothy is graciously grabbing for me. And we're going to now spend a little moment remembering. Look, I mean, this guy was an amazing, amazing guy, and he was so fun. And I think I met Howie Klein through Dorothy. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh boy. Okay. Okay.
Only Dorothy has a two-prong.
Do you? Yeah. So that's the only one you got? Oh boy, we're gonna be in trouble in a second. Okay. So look, Mike Fox, you might want to step up and just facilitate this for a second with Danny Goldberg. You can let us know his experience with Howie Klein. But I can let you know that from the moment that I met Howie, and who was Howie Klein, and why did Dorothy bring me into meeting with Howie? Well, Howie's an amazing person with an amazing history relating to such seminal figures in music history as The Clash and Frank Sinatra across Howie's career. He had some role in managing The Clash in one of their tours in the United States of America, I believe. And he definitely came across as kind of like a punk rock fellow traveler kind of guy. And Danny Goldberg, who's going to join us in a second, knows a little bit about that kind of thing too. But then I believe he ended up running the old classic Frank Sinatra label, right, in Hollywood. And he just had an amazing life before he managed The Clash and all that. Has great stories. Went to the same high school as Bernie Sanders, but was 10 years younger, and Chuck Schumer was in his class. And actually was with Howie and Bernie when Howie said to him at the Sanders Institute meeting in November, when was that? November 2018. I just had become ED at PDA, and I was with those two guys. So the three of us were talking. Goes, hey, I went to school with Chuck Schumer, and Bernie goes, oh, what was he like? And Howie just has a big smile on his face. just like he is now. And Bernie cracked up. But yeah, that was the thing. The guy had such spirit. And the minute I like had a dinner with him and met him and knew what he did, and okay, so what did he do recently? He organized a PAC called Blue America. And again, PDA transformed American politics by, the effort of the Tim Carpenter and Steve Cobble and Lila Garrett and generation of the first generation of PDA to draft Bernie Sanders to run for president. There's no doubt that's transformed American politics and even global politics by reviving the social democratic or democratic socialist left in the United States, which I, of course, absolutely believe we need. But Howie was already doing the stuff he was doing, right, Susie? He already had Blue America going. So it was
'07.
'07. We started '04. Always we were sort of partnered with him at PDA, is my understanding. But he would really go out and find real grassroots candidates in a way, and then interview them, and sometimes bring them to us. And so that sense, of course, it's a great loss for us that Howie's not there because, we need all the effort we can have to recruit and find progressive candidates. Now, of course, there's more momentum behind them. We're still facing off against big money. But Danny Goldberg, welcome again to PDA's Town Hall. And you were here previously about your book and the relationship of art to progressive politics. And you do amazing work yourself. And but you knew Howie Kleinwell. And your thoughts on a great ally passing.
I did. It's exactly 5 months today since he passed out of this planet. And yeah, I knew Howie first in the context of the music business and later in the context of progressive politics. And he was a great, brilliant, heroic leader in both. In the music business, he was really important in several different eras. At college, he went to University of New York at Stony Brook, where he brought the Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix and Jefferson Airplane for the first time to some East Coast dates. That was the same college class where the members of Blue Oyster Cult went, and he was very involved with the beginning of that band, and
Wow.
with Krishna Das, who later today is this great kirtan singer, was also a classmate. And I was lucky enough to be with Howie a few years ago at a reunion of his Stony Brook friends, and these are people who knew him when he was a teenager and felt exactly the same way about him that people like you and me and Dorothy do. Then later, he was also a great kind of spiritual being. He combined the three strands of the '60s: keen interest in spirituality, rock and roll, and progressive politics. And he'd done extensive traveling in India, Morocco, and other places. He then reemerges working for Sire Records, the great Seymour Stein, a close friend and colleague of Howie's, that developed a band, everyone from Madonna to the Ramones. And then later that morphs into a role at Warner Records, where he was a senior executive at Reprise. I had the privilege during my brief period as chair of the Warner Records to name Howie as president of Reprise Records. So he also functioned well in the major label system as a protector of artists like Lou Reed and Joni Mitchell and others. He also had the best taste in restaurants and, enjoyed life and had a joy about him. But his role in politics may be his greatest legacy. I know we were talking earlier with Dr. Hanaway about Bonnie Watson Coleman. I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Bonnie Watson Coleman once with Howie. And she just spent 10 minutes bending my ears about how she didn't think she would even be in Congress without Howie and how important he had been, not just through the PAC and through downwithtyranny.com, but through his personal influence. That word influencer is thrown around in such a casual, meaningless way, but Howie's opinion influenced people who knew him. I know when I was trying to figure out where to donate money, I trusted him 100%. If he said someone, number one, was progressive enough, and number two, had a chance of winning because he had a great pragmatic streak. So I know that anyone who knew him is going to miss his brilliance and his joy. There's a number of great obits of him online. I'm just happy to mark this moment with the people from PDA on this group that meant so much to him that he had introduced me to, and I just think he's a real role model of how to be a decent person, how to have other interests. He was fascinated by politics without being a political junkie. He loved rock and roll and music without being addicted to the music business, and he had an incredible gift for friendship. So, I know you want to get back to the important work of getting progressives elected. By the way, I hope everybody is giving to Brad Lander and his primary against Dan Goldman, speaking about a key progressive flip that we are going to definitely make in the New York area. And I just send my love to Dorothy, to you, and to the
Oh,
now
thank you. Hey, Danny.
129 people on this amazing
Well,
group.
the staff right now can make Dorothy Reich a co-host. I'm going to leave my computer and get on Dorothy's computer, and Dorothy's going to join Danny a second. So hold on, Danny, and make Dorothy a co-host. Sorry for the echo, but we're going to get off my computer and onto her nicer computer. And once she's made a co-host.
Dorothy is now co-hosted.
Okay, great. Now put your camera on, Dorothy. So if you can unmute there. You got to unmute first. Okay, good. You got it. You got it. Good. And now unmute. Now
I
unmute.
love it. Making things happen on the fly. I'm digging it. Good look.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Good. Okay, so I'm going to close off of this. And here we go. Oh, bye-bye. Okay, there we go. Hey, now.
Danny, it's so great to hear from you. I'm hoping you're going to be coming out to Topanga very soon. I'm going to show you a picture in a minute from my deck, and then you're going to want to come out. So I'm here with John Amato and Susie Shannon. Hello. And we are here to celebrate the life of Howie because we miss him so terribly. Danny, I get up at 4:30 in the morning, so he was my 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning companion.
He was an early riser, and I don't know if he needed coffee, man. He had energy right up until the end.
He wasn't a coffee man. I don't even think he was a tea man. He was mostly a water man.
Well, he was a committed vegan. That's for sure.
No, he wasn't a vegetarian. He was like a pescatarian, actually. He would eat fish. And yeah, so many good meals at Crossroads and these wild restaurants that he liked to go to. Anything new, Howie was up for it, and I would be going along for the ride. And I look at this strange food, and I would pick at it, and Howie would be devouring it, because anybody who ever went out to dinner with Howie knows what, right, Danny? The plate comes 5 minutes later, the plate is empty.
He did not make one embarrassed about eating too much. Yes.
He was so, I would drive from Topanga Canyon, from all the way up here in the hills to Hollywood to have a meal with him, and it would be over in a half hour.
Yeah.
I finally started talking him into having dessert, so I could spend some more time with him.
He also was a great advocate for many things. So if there was like a new store opening up and he advocated for it, because he's an advocate for the vegan butcher in Highland Park in my neighborhood, which is always pressing. You got to go.
A vegan butcher.
Yeah, vegan butcher.
The contradiction in terms.
Sounds like an oxymoron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there on York Street. Yeah.
I met Howie probably 20 years ago. Time goes so fast. When David Keith introduced me to him.
Listen, I don't know how long this is going to go, but I have a personal problem I want advice on from both of you, which is I live in the district where Mike Lawler, the horrible Mike Lawler, is the congressperson. And there's quite a few people running in the primary. Howie originally turned me on to Mike Sachs, who he really liked personally. But when Howie got sick, he wasn't there to help Mike Sachs. And Mike Sachs is definitely not going to win the primary. I gave him some money and signed his petition, but he's at 1%. So what's a PDA person supposed to do in this primary?
Well, what we're doing actually in New York, and we're behind the curve on getting, we had just reached New York, and we just secured that Brad Landers will be endorsed, of course, by PDA. Yeah. And I was at a fundraiser with Brad just a couple weeks ago in New York City. And he passed around Molly Crabapple's book about the Jewish Bund and recommended everybody read that, which I would recommend too. And Brad's incredible. Brad's gonna is going to pick up that seat. But with Lawler's race, we're just reviewing it now, and we'll be putting up our New York endorsements soon.
Please, because I have so many friends that just we can't figure it out.
Right, it's tough. This is a problem with progressive, and of course, that's how the conservative Democrat got in to the seat that Landers is challenging. Is there were proliferation of progressives, and
that's exactly right. Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Landers way ahead, and I just helped do a fundraiser for him last week with Steve Earle, term client, and I think he's okay, and he's going to be an incredible addition to the House. But I want a good Democrat to replace Lawler, and I really I have about 15, 20 friends up here where we can't figure out who to support.
Well, I know that Mike Fox has his ears perked up because we were right on the New York list as we hit the time for our meeting just on Friday, and we'll be picking that up tomorrow, actually, at our next campaign candidate. So we got to stay in the fast lane on this, because with all what happened to us this year is that all the redistricting threw us off in getting on top of all the later campaigns. But we're definitely through New Jersey, Montana. By the way, if you want to stick around and just see a great candidate in Missoula, Montana, I'll let the group know, that everybody on the mass audience here, into the secret about this call, is that Sam Forstag, of course, is on the campaign trail today. It's Sunday afternoon in Missoula. He's hitting the campaign trail. So we pre-recorded the dialogue that we had a couple days ago. But boy, was I impressed with him. And, the politics in Montana are different than they are in New York City, clearly. The issues are different, but he is right on point, I think, for the people of Missoula, with a real shot of winning the primary and then winning a Democratic seat in this year. Where if we have honest elections around the country, Danny and everybody, we're going to sweep these things. That's a big if. It's a really, really big if, and that's the struggle. But we know we'll have them in New York City.
I will definitely stay on for that. I haven't been following that race. That sounds fascinating.
We definitely needed Howie this year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we got to pick up and redouble our efforts for Howie, and that's what Howie want. We want us to enjoy ourselves while we do it too.
Oh, 100%, man. He would echo the words of Joe Hill: "Don't mourn, organize."
There we go.
Yeah, he was so important in my life, and I can't wrap my mind around the fact that I can't pick up the phone and call him, and he would always answer. Always, I'm in the middle of dinner with Jamie Dimon. Can I call you back? Or whatever he would be doing. It's always somebody important.
I wasn't because he's so full of energy.
He just knew everybody. Everybody knew him. Everybody in the Democratic Party and adjacent to the Democratic Party, and he always. You could wake up in the morning and go to Down with Tyranny, and you'd be just so frustrated and confused about something, and there would be laid out for you clearly, concisely. You would understand exactly who the players were, and you could mourn or whatever you would do with that information, but you had the information. And I just miss every morning being able to pick up the phone. God. I remember election night, I called him. And I said, "How are you? You watching what's going on?" And he said to me, "Don't worry, everything's going to be all right." And I said, "Howie, turn on your television." And a minute later, he came back. He said, "I'll talk to you later." And he hung up. So and then he got sick again. And I just was heartbroken, but I thought he'll beat it. And then he did beat it. And then just a glitch in an operation, and he was gone. So I'm here with Alan. I'm here with another old friend. Yeah, I met 20 years ago. David Keith was here with Alan Grayson. That's when I met him. And we were soulmates from the beginning.
Howie Klein was very loyal to Alan Grayson. I will tell you that.
Too loyal. No, you can't be too loyal to Alan Grayson.
No, we broke with Alan Grayson. We tried to talk him out of running against.
Yeah, well, that crazy Dina, what can I tell you? Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, here, John Amato is also a great friend of Howie's. And John's here.
Hey everybody, John Amato from crooksandliars.com.
He's going to take over.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about Howie now, but, in his record executive days, he was fighting for progressive values during the early Clinton days, and he was at the White House banging heads. So he's always been such a warrior on progressive issues. And, we formed this PAC. I met Howie, I don't know if it was 2005 or 6, maybe 2005. And we wound up forming this PAC with myself and if you know Digby, Heather Digby Parton, that she's a front page of a salon. And so we put this political pack together during the FISA fight when Obama was running. And but one of the things we did also in fundraising was we keyed when we raised enough funds, we keyed areas that would never hear a progressive message. So we would run billboards in like some bumfuck Georgia province somewhere, right? And guess what? Now there's 2 Democratic senators in Georgia. And so we wanted to get the message out to people that never would even hear it. And that was one of his legacies. And man, he's just, yeah, he was like my big brother. And just an incredible man. If you said, Howie, who's running in Idaho 14? You go bang, bang, bang.
Unbelievable. I know.
Well, Howie, what about in Washington State District 6? Bang, 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 bang. I mean, he had this mind on districts that nobody could touch, and so he is going to be missed. I mean, I kept in touch with him throughout the whole process after the surgery, and he had some stories. Danny would probably know a lot of them, but of him working with Axe, going through the whole process, and just he's a void, and we're all dealing with that. Yeah, we could use him. I mean, I'm so used to calling him 3-4 times a week, and just go, what's this? Who are we gonna get? And he always found a really good progressive to run, and we would then, since they were so good, if they lost this race, the next cycle they do better. But the progressive message was getting out, and that's the whole thing, and get this country hearing it. And the fact that he was a multimillionaire and he hated these billionaires, and because of, we can just see, I mean, Trump's out there talking about, the economy is fine. Kevin Hassett's on TV trying to say that the economy is great. It's just Democrats, it's like, yeah, because the stock market's good, right? So that means everything's great, but screw everybody else, anyways. So Howie will be missed. And but we're still fighting for him, and we're fighting for progressive values, and that's all I got. We love you, Howie.
Yeah, no, like I said, his legacy is going to live on because look, as part of certainly look, Carpenter and Cobble and the PDA people who drafted Bernie certainly deserve the lion's share of the credit there. But Howie was a very important institutional fellow traveler, is my understanding. Then one of the few people who had any kind of influence on supporting candidates that was very much behind what we were doing at the time. Even Bernie Sanders was calling for Elizabeth Warren to run. And one of the things about that was that, our executive director lived in Massachusetts, and he understood that Elizabeth Warren probably did not have the intestinal fortitude to go up against the Clintons. She had more to lose. They promised they would destroy her career. She did, right? And so she wasn't going to do it. She just left the window open because there was a chance that Hillary Clinton was going to get all caught up in the controversies, and then maybe she'd have to be in trouble. And so she wasn't saying, I won't run. But everybody was trying to draft her. And, we all heard Bernie on Tom Hartman. We thought he was fantastic. And my understanding is that
Breakfast with Bernie.
Yeah, that's right. Breakfast with Bernie on Tom Hartman, that he could speak to a national audience, he could connect. And so we decided he was, and there was that whole history around calling for a primary challenge that combined it. Right?
So
but Howie was into it.
Friend of Howie's here, Susie Shannon.
Well, we were going to have to go to Sam Forstag out of respect to Sam. Then we're going to bring Susie on when we have Lynn on, and right after Sam in about 20 minutes. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Danny. It's great to see
Thanks,
you.
Danny, and check out crooksandliars.com.
Wait, I gotta show him. I gotta show him something. Wait, Danny, look. Can you see?
Can the whole audience see it?
Can everybody
Very,
see?
very nice.
Yeah. And there's Susie Shannon in
Say
it.
hi to Susie.
Part of the very important part of the California landscape out here, Susie.
So Danny, you need to come back to Topanga for a while.
Well, get me that house again.
I will. I will.
Or when my house gets rebuilt in the Palisades.
He was staying in Neil.
I think she's got someone year round for the Neil Young.
Neil Young's?
Yeah, Neil Young's house.
Neil Young played with Bernie out here a little while
Well, we're
ago.
spending a lot of time in Northern California. My wife's 5-year-old granddaughter, Edie, lives there. So the time I was spending in Topanga, I've been spending lately up north, but
Wow.
easy to get there.
Get meandered down. I love your wife, Karen. Every time I hear on Bernie on Ian Masters, or she's been around, and it's great to hear her
Yeah.
intelligent
Thank you. I'm sure I know you guys probably can talk on the phone. So sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll catch you a second, but let's get Sam's. I'm going to hold on for 1 minute. Okay. So, folks on the staff.
Let's go to our thank yous to everybody who has donated up to this point,
Okay.
and then we can get to Sam's video. Does that work for you?
It does. And why don't you cue it up and then throw back to me? I'll mute right out here and take it away, Mike, with your to-dos for the PDA.
Cool. All right. And everybody who's been raising your hand, number one, the host will call for raised hands. So just hold on, gang. I need to get through my favorite part of every one of these weekly calls, and that is thank yous. I want to thank the following folks who have donated today. We've got Greta and phone banker Tyler double doing, and phone banker Heather double doing, and Elizabeth and Francesca, and phone banker Caroline double doing, and Mark, and phone banker, the head of our New Jersey chapter, Catherine, likewise, double and triple doing. And thank you, phone banker William double doing, and Donna, Ira, Shirley double doing as always, T. Wesley, Margaret, Mary Ellen double doing. Thank you, Francis, Mary out in Colorado double doing, and Gilda and Michael out in California double doing, and Mary out in Arizona double doing. The double doing is people who donate and volunteer, gang. Show them some love. And double doing Peggy and Michael, who starts us off every week here with a donation. Thank you, brother. And Cheryl and Daniel, thank you so much for your more than kind $100, sir. And if anyone can match what Daniel has tossed in today, please do. And Anthony and Leslie, Dr. Leslie phone banking and donating. Thank you for double doing. And Beth, Kathleen, Bob, phone banker Beverly, phone banker Jane, and phone banker Marion again, and our the head of our West Virginia chapter and phone banker extraordinaire, Carol. And that looks like it does it. So thank you all for donating today. Likewise, thank you to all the folks who have signed up to volunteer. We're still short on our total sustainers. We're still short, but moving in the right direction on volunteer shifts. So again, I'll toss in the chat where to donate. We're going to be focusing on Sam here as we run the video. Pile on, pile on. The volunteer link remains the same. pdamerica.org/volunteer. Pile on, pile on. We got to be in the game in a big way over the upcoming week. We have a gazillion candidates with elections, not this Tuesday, but next. There is no, I'll do that tomorrow. It's now. So let's make it happen, gang. And we'll all take a look at where we're at when we hit family time after we wrap this recording. So back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, everybody. And so we're going to go right now to this dialogue I had with this fantastic candidate in Missoula, Montana. And I've been in Missoula, Montana once in my life, and it's a spectacular place and a beautiful community, actually. Again, very progressive community. It's where the University of Montana is. And it's guys, sorry guys for the noise in the background, but the Missoula, Montana, and there's a real chance of a Democrat winning in this district, and I think Sam really speaks to the kind of politics that are going to really resonate with the people in Western Montana, and it's just unwaveringly progressive. The Montana Democrats who have won statewide have been very moderate, so Sam represents a break in that regard. And here now, if it's ready to be queued up, is my dialogue that I recorded just a couple days ago with somebody who, again, could be an exceptional new voice inside Congress if he wins the primary. And I think it's a close race with a person who ran statewide as the Democratic nominee for governor and didn't win as governor. But my understanding is Sam's maybe odds on to win this primary. And then in the context of a fair election in November 2026, given the incredible unpopularity of the Trump administration, I think there's a real chance that this district is won by the Democratic nominee. And here now is my dialogue with Sam Forstag. Take it away. Hello, everybody in the town hall. And we all know who I am. And, Yeah, I'm recording a few days earlier. Hopefully, I don't get a head cold and I'm with you live. So I will have just introduced myself as I'm about to introduce Sam Forstag, who is a candidate in the western part of Montana. Now, Montana now has two congressional districts, and you probably remember there was a Democratic senator recently in Montana. And so Montana sort of maybe split geographically makes sense that one of these districts is going to be very competitive. And if you do know anything about Montana, you know the western part of the state where Missoula, Montana is, would be the part of the state which is more likely be the competitive district, and the eastern part of the state would be more Republican leaning. And indeed, we have a great progressive candidate who has stepped up to run, and somebody who's was working a federal job until recently, and is new to political office, but very early on coordinated with the Fight Oligarchy Tour organizers. As you might recall, a few months ago, 6 months ago, was out trying to find progressive candidates across the country. And Sam Forstag has stepped up and he's running for the House of Representatives. His campaign has got significant momentum. He was endorsed early by our friend Bernie Sanders, and he has consolidated progressive support in this race that is coming up on June 2nd. And let me just introduce now Sam Forstag, and he's going to tell you about himself, about his campaign, and about the attraction of progressive politics in the district. So welcome, Sam Forstag, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in the June 2nd primary in Montana. Welcome to PDA's Town Hall.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan. Yeah, everybody, thank you for listening. It's Sam Forstag. I'm calling in here from Missoula, from my little house on the edge of town that's also campaign headquarters at the same time. And yeah, I was working until about 4 months ago as a smoke jumper for the U.S. Forest Service. Jumping out of planes to put out wildfires before they grow. And as vice president of my union's local, when all the Doge cuts began and all the rest, and we ended up losing about a quarter of the Forest Service in this state between Doge cuts and all the rest. And most of the people that they fired were the lowest paid employees in our agency. It was mostly folks making less than 20 bucks an hour, swinging tools to keep roads clear and trails clear so you can actually make it into your public lands. And when I reached out to Ryan Zinke's office, the Republican we got sitting in this seat, I got crickets over and over again. So I decided if he's going to come take all my union members, my coworkers' jobs, I'm going to come take his. And I think we got a pretty good shot at it. Like you said, we got a primary between us and the general on June 2nd, but Zinke dropped out of this race just over a month ago because he saw what was coming, and what was coming is all of us.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about the district, and to frame the campaign of a progressive candidate in Western Montana. I want to have people recall that in 2016, Bernie Sanders, as the campaign in competition with Hillary Clinton for the Democratic nominee, went through the entire country. The Great Plains states and the Rocky Mountain states overwhelmingly supported Bernie Sanders. And so all of us who work and look at the landscape of American politics as progressives, the capacity of a progressive candidate in any of these congressional districts across this huge geographic expanse, which, with the exception of Colorado, and then maybe down the Southwest now, is overwhelmingly dominated by the Republican Party at the national level and at the state and local level, except for maybe some population centers. And so our sense would be in a district like Montana's district in the western part of the state, the congressional district, would really be grounds for a progressive candidate doing great. So how's the campaign going? And your sense of the lure of, how do Sanders' template for policies, the progressive movement's template for policies, translate and have traction in the western part of Montana?
Yeah, well, thus far, the campaign, I'm so damn grateful to have support from Senator Sanders. AOC, who's going to be coming out here for a rally in the next week or so. Yeah. I'm grateful as hell for that from the Progressive Caucus. And not just them, it's unions across the state. We've got over a dozen unions supporting, including some unions who may not have voted for Democrats in large last year. About 47% of union members voted Republican last year. That to me is an organizing issue. And that's an issue of the National Party's ability to talk to working class people and to talk to union members about the material concerns that a lot of us are facing on a day-to-day basis. Out here in Montana, we by some measures have the least affordable housing market in the country.
Wow.
And the western half of the state is the less affordable side of the state. It's a beautiful place, and folks have started to discover it and to move out here. And we're not shutting that barn door at this point, but right now you've got homelessness that has doubled or tripled in just about every major city in the state. for one example. And that is a result of the fact that, well, our government has failed to address some of these pressing concerns that people are dealing with, right? When 5 million people are now uninsured since the ACA subsidies expired, because, well, people like me, if you left your job at the Forest Service, which I had to do to run for federal office, I'm looking at marketplace plans where a bronze plan is 7, 8, 900 bucks a month for bad health insurance. And there are all these broken systems that, well, they undermine people's basic faith in the ability of our government to address the big material concerns that we're facing. And like I said to you before this call, Alan, as I see it, that ought to be the primary concern of our government, is making sure that your life is materially better when the market ain't meeting a need. And there are a lot of needs not being met. So to the last part of your question, you call it progressivism, you call it populism. What I think we urgently need is a movement of people and candidates who actually come from the working class, who maybe come from unions,
Yeah.
even better, and
Yeah.
who can bring what used to be the base of the Democratic Party back together. So it's the kind of party that I want to be a part of, which is a party not just for working people or for union members, but of working people and of union members, so we can fight for ourselves.
I'm old enough to have sort of wept on the night of whatever, November, early first 8 days of November in 1980 when Ronald Reagan really crushed Jimmy Carter. And there were a bunch of progressives who were senators, U.S. senators, and they'd been senators my whole life, and they were very prominent progressive Democratic senators from, I don't know about Montana, but the general region, of course, most famously George McGovern from the Dakotas, Frank Church from Idaho. And so, yeah, progressive politics really used to have traction back in the day when it was clear that the party represented working people. And
Here
of
in the
course,
West,
oh,
right?
yeah, hardworking farmers and everything. Yeah.
Look at McGovern out of Minnesota.
Absolutely. Well, so everybody, of course, we have endorsed Sam's candidacy. And so in the chat right now, you'll find a link where you can donate, and you can donate as a split, or you can click on that link and you can make it so that you're donating all the money to Sam's campaign or a portion of it to PDA. It's set up as a split because we, of course, are going to be having our phone teams mobilized to support Sam's campaign. And the primary is coming up quick on June 2nd, which, folks, of course, is the same day as the California primary, which probably in the national press is going to dominate a lot of the focus. And there's a lot of primaries on June 2nd. And but this is a really hugely important race, hugely important race. Please, for sake of humility, maybe think distracting thoughts for a second, Sam, because I'm going to praise you here. Look, this is an exceptional candidate, and we do know, as I spoke about, the kind of races in the region generally that Sam is, where Bernie had swept so many primaries in 2016. The first wave of progressive Congress people that hopefully we can elect in seats are going to be trailblazing figures in the region. And this is a great candidate, folks. And obviously very sincerely connected to the interests and needs of the working class out in Western Montana. And that's going to resonate with people across the country. And, the whole geographic expanse of red state America, people aren't happy with the economic social contract across the region. And this first wave of progressives are going to be speaking to people all across the country. Let's push Sam over the top to victory in this competitive race in this district on June 2nd, and then to victory on November 3rd. And so, yes, please donate what you can on that link to Sam's campaign. And it's a big geographic district. Every dollar is going to go a long way. And what is your sense along what I just said about the resonance of the Sanders message? And you're endorsed by Bernie Sanders, a bunch of progressive champions across the country and allied organizations of progressive Democrats of America. We've endorsed Sam Forstag, our endorsing. What's your sense about the resonance of the progressive message to people in the district and across the whole region?
I think there's a hunger out there, Alan. I mean, we're the people, humble, hungry, mean, and people are quite literally hungry because, well, we can't afford to meet our basic needs. And I think that there is just a common sense set of policy solutions out there about the notion that you should be able to work one good job, not two or three like I worked the entire time I'm going to school here in Missoula, and afford a roof over your head and actual health coverage that actually gets you health care when you need it, and childcare. If you'd like to raise a family without going broke, spending $19,000 a year, which is what the average cost of childcare is in this state, if you can even make it through a waiting list. And while you're at it, well, you ought to be able to get to a stable retirement and maybe have some time to recreate out on your public lands if you're in a beautiful place like this. So many of those feel out of reach to people who voted in both directions last year in this election. And so many of those things are common sense issues. And the two things that I'm saying is that we can swing for big, bold, progressive policy changes, like free healthcare for every working person in this country, like universal childcare and pre-K, like the kind of federal investments in affordable housing that we used to have when it wasn't considered radical, when it was just part of the Great Society, it was just part of the damn New Deal, and that we've not increased investment in decades. And we can fight for those big changes and still remember all the common ground that we have and how we are able to talk past differences, because a lot of the folks that I know, whether it's my union members, my friends, some of my coworkers, they might have voted for some of the schlubs who are in power tearing all this stuff down right now, but they're facing those same problems. And they want to see an affirmative vision for how we can all fix these things together. And well, the best mechanism we got, well, it's things like unions, and it's things like our government if we can take control of it again. And so what's unique about this campaign, I'll tell you, Alan, is we got support from well over a dozen labor unions across the state. Only campaign that can say that in this primary. We have support from the Progressive Caucus, also support from over 30 Montana legislators. A few of those are disillusioned Republican legislators. We don't see anything that reflects conservatism in a federal government that's murdering American citizens in the street, or who don't see anything conservative about disinvesting for mental health services, so that a third of the folks living in our homeless shelters, I helped build the Coalition to Solve Homelessness in this state between fire seasons. Well, a third of those people in shelters, they're grappling with mental illness and don't have any access to care. And it's a lot more expensive than just getting somebody health care up front. Waiting until they end up tied up in our carceral system in the state hospital and then being discharged onto the streets. That's the most expensive, least compassionate way to deal with these problems. And that's what we're doing right now as a country.
Yeah, and we only have a couple minutes left, Sam, and really literally about two. And so I'm going to ask you to maybe summarize, but I just want to, again, frame things with very clear sense. You look at the national polls and you see this poll number that consistently is pointed to in the national media that as unpopular as Donald Trump is, the general approval of the general Democratic Party. I think some of this is reflective of the party's inability to defend the society from Trump and his vicious right-wing attack on the constitutional republic. But progressives are very popular in polls, and our positions are very popular. But there's this kind of still undertow. Well, if you're going to take on the Republicans so far to the right, then we should maybe not have someone who's too progressive. And I think that's completely misses where the moment is politically, that the public is not drawn to the centrist Democratic Party and very much two progressive solutions. But there's this undertow that we should support the more centrist Democrat if we're going to defeat a right-wing Republican. And I think that's very misguided. Just your summary on the race, yourself, your beliefs, and you got about 90 seconds.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think, the National Democratic Party, they keep losing to Republicans, and somehow the solution that they think they see is to become more like a Republican.
Yeah.
And that seems so clearly not to be the answer. I don't think the folks that Donald Trump brought over that used to be Democrats, working class people, or union members, they didn't vote for him because he's uniquely ideologically conservative. They voted for him because their life was not getting materially better year over year under Democratic control. And because a lot of people, if you're working 2 or 3 jobs, don't have time to follow the intricacies of policymaking and politics. They just know that, you might be like me. You might be jumping out of airplanes for the federal government, making $19 an hour. And I'm in a community where you cannot find a home for less than $500,000. That means my life did not materially improve over the preceding 4 years. And if you're 20 years in doing the same job in the same situation, yours didn't either. And there's the hopeful thing is that there are solutions to these things, right? We used to build affordable housing as a country. We used to be able to, we created programs with leadership from Montana, folks like Mike Mansfield, who helped create Medicare and Medicaid as the leader of the Senate. And none of these are crazy. These are the basic programs that working people depend on. And a lot of working people are seeing how much we depend on them because they're being clawed away from us by the richest people in the world right now, who are getting incredibly wealthy off of cutting the public services so that they can turn around and say, look, it doesn't work. Let's privatize it. This is our chance to stop it. And progress has never moved in a straight line in this country. It's always been fits and bursts. And we did not get the programs of the New Deal until folks were living hand to mouth. In the 1930s, we didn't get the Great Society until the tumult in the streets and daily thugs were beating up protesters in the 60s. Right now has got to be one of those moments. And if we want it to be, we have to do it ourselves. And if the doors of change of the Democratic Party have seemed closed for so damn long, we might have to just kick them down. And that's what this campaign's about, is saying, I don't want to have to choose between one multimillionaire and another. Every time I go to vote for Congress and Senate, I want to be able to choose a working person who knows what it's like to be on the wrong end of these broken systems and is going to fight that much harder to fix them.
And Sam, thank you so much. I'll be talking about how brilliant I think your campaign is in just a moment. But as you say goodbye, your website so people can look up more about your campaign.
It's samformontana.com. Please log on, donate. I would love your help phone banking. We're not the best resource campaign in this race, but we are the one with the best message, and I need all the help I can possibly get before June 2nd. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody. So that is Sam Forstag, and he is one incredible candidate, folks. And look, on Thursday, the head of the union for the airline attendees, Sarah Nelson, great ally of PDA and myself actually too, and tight with Harvey J.K., my co-author, and everything. And Sarah Nelson's amazing, and she is going out with AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, on Thursday for a campaign rally and fundraiser for Sam Forstag in Montana. And AOC had a great little post the other day, back to Missoula. So she'd been there before, and Bernie has been there. And Bernie was out there in his Fighting Oligarchy tour, and he met Sam Forstag. And that's really the moment that really led to such great momentum for his campaign and the great viability that the campaign has. And while I haven't spent a lot of time in Missoula, I've only been there once. I did have two very close friends who grew up there, became very, very close to them after college, and they told me a lot about it. And just knowing Nathan and Jake as I did, I can tell you Sam is really, really going to appeal to the communities out there. A lot of times Democratic candidates haven't seemed like hardworking people who really, are willing to, jump out of planes, right, and do this kind of perilous work, but a real commitment to, the labor they do and the fulfillment of their jobs as best as they can possibly achieve them. And this is a kind of like working class ethic that hasn't been so prominent in the Democratic Party in recent years, and we have to really bring it back into prominence. We have to endorse working class candidates across the country more than has been the case. I mean, there was a study done that like only 1.7% of between state assembly, state senate, statewide elections, and U.S. federal elections, 1.7% of Democratic nominees would be sociologically categorized as from the working class. And this, of course, is starting to shift and starting to change. And here's a great candidate, a great example of somebody who I think could really, bring some different energy, not only from the Montana caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives, but from the Democratic caucus in general. So I really think Sam has great hope. I hope people can, sign on to volunteer to support his campaign. If they want to, again, make phone calls leading into the June 2nd campaign for his campaign or Dr. Hamway's, the way to do that is to sign on the link that Mike Fox has to volunteer in the chat. And also you can donate to Sam's campaign through, again, the split donation between, it'll be split between PDA and Sam. You can adjust the split however you like, but it's right now set at 50-50 if you click on that link. And PDA will be, of course, expending resources as we promote his candidacy with a real chance of winning the primary on June 2nd and on to then a great chance of winning. I think the Democrat will win that district, especially if it's Sam in November, because I do think Montana isn't going to have corrupted elections like we're going to see down in the Southeast and stuff. I hope that's the case. Of course, who knows how much pressure the Trump people will put on every state they can put pressure on. And of course, that is a state with Republican control at the state level. But if it's an honest election, I think the Democrats pick up that seat. And to have Sam in Congress will be brilliant. A young man who I think, reflects so many of the attitudes, the hardworking attitudes, the commitments and commitment to community that you see across the working class in America that's so underrepresented in our political elected officials. So I hope people enjoyed hearing from Sam, and let's support the campaign and let's get a victory going on June 2nd. And here's Dorothy Reich again. Hi, Dorothy. I think the battery's doing okay. But what we're going to do, here we go. So look, we're going to go to family time in a few minutes, but we are going to hear from Lynn. So I'm going to get Susie from the other room. And just Lynn, so let me just wrap up about Sam. So that's the candidacy up in Montana. And as everybody maybe knows on this call who's been frequent to the PDA town halls, we introduced this document, the Rural New Deal. And it's gaining a lot of traction within the Democratic Party, but there are so few Democrats, let alone progressive Democrats, elected into House seats from across the great expanse of geography in America that it's difficult to sort of, we really don't want a New York City congressperson introducing the Rural New Deal. And it's not a joke that one of the head of I think the Democratic Party agricultural committee within the party a few cycles ago, was a New York congressperson. That's how underrepresented the broad expanse of outback America, that the Democratic presence is almost invisible in parts of that. That's changing now, and well, it's getting worse in some areas, and then it's starting to change when you have candidates like Sam. And I think it will change if we increase the number of progressive um, nominees we have in the general election. And so, as you can see, I really do view this as a potentially transformative race, and I hope people get behind Sam's candidacy. So, Susie Shannon is going to join me for a second, and I'm going to call on Lynn here. And just as we wrap up before we go to family time, again, more honoring of Howie Klein, and Howie would sure love Sam. Certainly would be thrilled about Dr. Hamawy as well. And Howie was just a great source of, he and I would dialogue about all the candidates across the country, and he tipped me off on the candidates, and we'd end up endorsing, and vice versa. And we'd share notes. And it's what Dorothy and Danny and everybody was saying about Howie. He knew every district, every race, every progressive, all the gossip. He certainly knew the gossip, yeah. And a great guy. But Lynn, who's on the phone, I want to say Lynn gets a big shout out because Lynn we knew we were going to get Randy Vegas on a town hall sooner or later, but Lynn was just pressuring us. Got to get Randy Vegas on. He was fantastic last week. For people who don't know, just to go back to if you were on the call as early as when Dr. Hamawy was on, his opponent, and it's really a two-person race in that California 22nd, right? That's the district that Randy's running in, is a doctor who's against Medicare for all. It's like, whoa, how can somebody stand as a Democratic doctor? Yeah, she's just totally a empty suit Democrat. Sorry I don't like castigating. In California, it's frustrating. They're really, people don't know it out here, but the look, richest state in the country, richest province or state in the whole world, right? When that's the case, and you have a one-party state with the Democrats controlling the state assembly and the governors to the degree that they do, of course, all the corporations get their fangs into the Democratic Party. And boy, do they have their fangs in the Democratic Party. But it takes electing people like Randy Villegas and other progressive candidates across the state to start to win that back in California. One day we should, one day I'd like to see Susie in the House or the Senate, or but I think for a great housing advocate like Susie Shannon, I think the White House is a good place for Susie. Lynn, how you doing? And Lynn, can you unmute and let us know how did you meet Howie Klein and all that jazz? And what your thoughts on Howie and all he meant to us?
Yeah, Dorothy invited me to come on today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I would be knocking doors around Bakersfield, where I am currently right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and quickly, how does that race look to you right now? Promising, right?
Very promising. If I have anything to do with it, they told me that I have knocked on 2,000 doors this year since January, because I've been up here and in Fresno a few times. But basically about Howie, I think that I found him right after Trump got elected the first time. I was on KPFK listening to a guy named David Feldman. He had a show every Tuesday evening, and Howie would come on and talk politics. And I had never heard anyone talk about politicians the way he did. He was so well informed and knew all the ins and outs, and just was so impressive that I found his blog and I started reading it. Then I started going on the Blue America PAC list to see the candidates he recommended. And also, Howie would be on another post that I used to I found it with a woman named Nicole Sandler. She has a podcast, and Howie would be invited on every Thursday. So I got to hear Howie visiting with his friends every week, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and read his blog every day. I am retired. I retired from my teaching and counseling job in 2011. So I have, I was working part-time, but Howie got me so interested in politics. I quit working and devoted myself full-time to being what some people call me a super volunteer. And I have phone banked for Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, I was so sad that they lost when they did, and Marie Newman, all kinds of candidates that Howie told me about. And one candidate, I went to a fundraiser and met this candidate. I said, I'd like to help you, but I need some place to stay and I can knock doors for you. And the guy put me up in his house. And then it was so much fun, meeting all the people on the campaign trail. But yeah, Howie, I'm so surprised I'm not crying because I cried all day. Christmas Day when I found out that he had passed away. And if anybody else would like to know more, a little more, Nicole Sandler did a podcast in honoring him and brought up things from 2009 and her first podcast with him, her last podcast with him. And she points out many different aspects of his life, including that he was a world traveler. So if anybody wants to go, it's her December 25th last year show. You can find it on YouTube.
You know what's something crazy, Lynn? When I was just starting out at KPFK, and this how we would appreciate this. Sonali Kalhatkar was on 5 days a week, 2 hours a day on Uprising when she started, and she wasn't going to do a show on Christmas Day, and I was around, and Joe Strummer died. I did a whole hour honoring Joe Strummer, and of course, Howie was the manager of the Clash on one of their tours, and let's just say he thought very highly of Joe Strummer. So there's December 25th radio shows they have in common there. And yeah, it's funny because, Joe Strummer is such a seminal figure and radical figure within rock history. For people on the left, they really herald and love Joe Strummer, but that's the way I feel about Howie. I mean, Howie may not have written songs, at least not that I knew of, but he sang a song that I thought was just as beautiful and just as powerful.
Well, Howie was always so hopeful and so upbeat, even when he was suffering, dealing with cancer. And every email, he would close it with, "Thanks for doing what you can to make this a better world." And Dorothy told me, "Look, Lynn, you got to go on. Don't mourn. Howie would want you to stay in the game." That's why I'm up here. I've been up here since, the beginning of April. I've been up here and I'm staying 3 more days, just fighting to talk to all the voters here. And, it's pretty amazing in this so-called red district. I've talked to Republicans and they're going, "I voted Republican for my life. The last 3 times I voted for Trump, but never, ever again." And and then I tell them about Randy Villegas, and they're very supportive. They support his policies. I speak Spanish. I've spoken Spanish a lot up here, and everybody is really thrilled. There's another subgroup here of Punjabi Sikhs, and they some of them at the door don't speak English, but Randy is endorsed by a Sikh woman who's running for the assembly, and Manpreet Kaur is her name. I have her flyer, and I go up to doors where they don't speak English or Spanish, and I just hold up these 2 flyers, one for Randy and one for Manpreet. I go, "2 good people." And then they see the face of the person they they relate to her, and then they relate to Randy. So I think I got a couple votes that way. But I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for Howie. And every door I go to, I think about him. And I pray to God that Randy can win this seat in June 2nd, and then in November. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for what you're doing. What powerful testimony as to how he's impacting the great work you do, Lynn. And also, it goes even deeper than the competition between the moderate wing and the progressive wing, and the contrast between the 2 candidates in that district, which is sharp. But I actually really believe that to salvage American democracy, and this is an open and free society, we have to have the progressives ascend within the Democratic Party, because the one thing that's going to drive that person who said they'd never vote Republican again is to have do nothing moderate Democrats continue to win elections and everything just stays status quo, nothing changes. And somebody was talking about the stock market. You know, the way the economy functions is the money just goes deeper and deeper into the coffers of the rich, and everything that we have to live with as working people or as middle class people, we pay rent because they own every asset in the society, because they're buying up every asset in society. We got to have progressives ascend. Randy's a brilliant candidate, and in the spirit of Howie Klein, you made sure we weren't going to miss him, and we thank you so much for that, Lynn, for all that you do. Hey, thank you, Lynn. And Susie Shannon, your thoughts on Howie Klein?
So Howie was a truth teller, and he didn't kiss up to power, and that was so important. I remember he would call me a lot to ask me about candidates and where they stood on housing and homelessness, because a lot of that narrative was not really out there about candidates. People talked about different things in the progressive community and moderate side about different things, but housing and homelessness and how folks, who are lower income, were those issues are being addressed, was really kind of not out there. So I was somewhat of a sounding board for him on a lot of those issues. And if I ever had any complaints, he would go, write it up and I'll put it out, which was really great. And it was so refreshing to have, it was so refreshing to have someone in our movement who wasn't afraid of retribution, who could just, you could open up Blue America and, you could see everything that was really going on.
He could definitely, for people like me and you, he was saying what we felt so often.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was really great. He was super supportive too, which was really important. He really cared about people and he wanted to make the world a better place. And I think when you're coming from that perspective and not just about, yourself and your career or something like that, it's just really refreshing, and it's really important to have people like that in our movement. And this is a tremendous loss. I know that I was honored by progressive Democrats of the Santa Monica Mountains at the same award ceremony as Howie, and he had heard the story about how we created the Poverty Council, and he actually put that out on his blog like a couple days later. And it was great because only Alan Minsky and Howie Klein have written about how the Poverty Council was started. And it was just great, and he did that because he really cared. He did that because he wanted to make the world a better place. He really cared about people. He cared about what candidates thought, in terms of issues related to housing and homelessness and low-income people. And he wasn't going to let that go, even though there are other issues in our progressive community that are talked about maybe more or given more importance. He really understood that was kind of lacking. And, he would reach out to me, and I met him through Dorothy, and we would go out to eat sometimes at Crossroads. Sometimes they would let me come with them to go to Crossroads, which is great because I'm a vegetarian. So like the chicken scallopini was his favorite and is my favorite now because he turned me on to that. And it just, I think it's a tremendous loss. And I really thank PDA for giving time to remember him, and to Dorothy Reich for introducing me to him. He turned out too to be very pivotal for me as well, because Dorothy and Howie had really been responsible for me getting on the Bernie campaign, the presidential campaign in 2020. So it's a huge loss for us, and I'm really thankful to PDA for remembering him today.
He's a great guy for sure. Well, look, I want to thank everybody who's chimed in for the remembering Howie Klein, and obviously Susie Shannon, Dorothy Wright. Come up here, Dorothy, one last time, and John Amato, and Lynn Harvey, and Danny Goldberg, of course. Thank you for joining in on this, and then of course I want to thank Sam Forstag and Dr. Adam Hamawy from New Jersey 12th, and Sam up there in Montana. And Dorothy, your final thoughts on where we are in the world and Howie Klein.
Asking these
Channel
questions.
Howie here now. It's the Ouija board.
Remain optimistic. even in these terrible times. He would not lose faith. He would not stop smiling. He would not stop trying to find the most fun food and restaurants to go to. He would still be getting up in the morning and doing his writing and swimming in his indoor swimming pool and getting out and saying chants in every religion that he knew of and going for his walk and keeping us all going. And he was really supportive of writers too. I mean, I'm not that much of a writer, but he got me to write a lot. I wrote a lot of stuff.
Well, remind people of your listserv again. We want to get people to sign on to it. And
Okay, yeah. So he got me to write a lot. I think my favorite was when looking at Trump's foreign policy, consider the real estate. I wrote that in 2016, so and it went on from there. But he would always publish everything I wrote, which meant a lot to me.
Actually,
I'd encourage me to write more.
I'd always call him up and he go, "Why don't you write that up?" And then, "Oh, I got a writing assignment for the night."
Yeah.
I just send it into Howie and put it up.
So yeah, my listserv is just text me at 310-291-1300 and text me your email address and I'll add you to my listserv and you'll get overwhelmed with links to articles. Unfortunately, none of them will be Howie's anymore.
Right, that's true. You used to really feature Howie almost every other day, and it's just one email a day, and it is really
it's 4 emails a day.
4 emails a day.
Yeah, you just don't open them all. One is on immigration. One is
of course they all come at once.
One is on the Republicans, one's on the Democrats, and one's called Stop the World, and that's mostly on war and other outrages.
Yeah, but you really have highlighted some things that have fallen between the cracks, and they're important to highlight. And you do keep a very strong line on every progressive policy position, and provide both journalism that studies that honest journalists are doing, collecting information, sharing that information through their journalism, but also opinion pieces that frame the arguments in very positive.
Alan. I really appreciate that, to know that I'm not there in vain typing away at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, it's great. And people sign up. That's again 310-291-1300. And that's it for our town hall, folks. Thank you to everybody here up here. The air is so much cleaner up here and nice than it is in Highland Park, though I love my neighborhood. But they're heavier out there in Highland Park.
Yeah. Walk to get pizza though.
Yes, that's for sure. Up here, yeah, we're on top of the world, and it's beautiful. And thank you, Dorothy, for hosting this about Harvey. And again, thanks to Danny.
We should do this every so often. Come to Topanga and broadcast.
I think the technical hiccups, the staff would maybe not be so happy about that. But Mike Fox, let's put a bow and ribbon on this, and then you take it away for the.
Mike wouldn't mind, would you, Mike?
Yeah, Mike, come out here for this. You'd like it up here. Mike, calling on Mike Fox, and we're going to go to family time now. Everybody who's on Stack, stay on Stack. Oh, there's Mike. He has his hand up. We don't have to unmute Mike. Mike can unmute himself. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, that was going to be my comment. So put a bow on it and we'll get into family time.